Surveying the distant strand of Silver Beach, washed by the blue Caribbean rollers, Master Tobias Dickey made a mental remark that the view was prodigious fine, and life was very good to live. His contentment was born out of a good supper eaten after a hard day's work, and also out of that sense of well-being which had possessed him ever since the day on which he had first set foot in this beautiful New Providence of the Bahamas. He stood at his window in Governor's house, a small, portly man, well advanced into middle age, pulling at his pipe of Gibraltar tobacco, and comparing its fragrance with that of the bougainvillea, with which the garden abounded. Life and the evening were quiet, and Master Dickey never dreamed that he was waiting on the threshold of a high adventure, in which he was to be called to play a not unimportant part. "When I reflect," he was to write later in his journal, "on the peaceful temper with which I composed myself to rest, suspecting nothing of what was to befall, I never cease to wonder at the manner in which Providence ever reserves its most sudden strokes for the time when we are least prepared, even as the tempest breaks when the tropic day is most serene." Certainly nothing could have been more placid and contentedly reflective than Master Dickey's mood as he knocked out his pipe, took a last look at the scene on which the sudden Caribbean night would shortly be descending, half-closed the broad screen doors, and prepared for bed. It was a far cry, he thought, from a draughty garret in Edinburgh to a governor's residence, from clerking in an advocate's office to his present post as first secretary, man of affairs, and close confidant of the governor of the Bahamas, Captain Woodes Rogers. Yet it had only been the merest chance that had crossed his path with Woodes Rogers 2 years ago, when the captain had been renting the Bahama Islands from the Lords Proprietors and obtaining a commission as governor. Dickey had been a cog in the legal machine which had been engaged on that complex business, but Rogers, the great discoverer and privateer, had noted his diligence and had offered him his present employment. Dickey had accepted with the eagerness of one escaping from slavery, nor, he reflected as he climbed into his comfortable bed and watched the shadows lengthen across his spacious apartment, had he had cause for one moment to regret his step. Since their landing in New Providence 2 years ago, and the expulsion of those pirates who had used it as a haven, there had been much to occupy the new governor and his assistant. Woodes Rogers saw the Bahamas as an estate of which he was to be steward for 21 years, and he set about to make it a model for the western seas. To a remarkable extent he had succeeded, and Master Dickey, at the governor's right hand in all things, had been made to feel that he too was doing his share towards making history in the Caribbean. Thus Master Dickey had ample grounds for satisfaction as he lay musing, and as the shadows deepened in the garden outside, he began to doze gently. He came out of his half-sleep with a sudden start, his thoughts racing back to identify the noise that had disturbed him. Something had moved on the veranda. There had been a quick scraping, as though a foot had brushed over the boards. He listened, straining to catch the sound again, and gradually, as he lay in the warm silence, he became aware of an almost imperceptible but regular rustling, just beyond the screen doors. Someone was standing there, and Tobias could hear him, breathing. It was almost dark outside, and he could see nothing but the dim oblong of light between the doors. Slowly he reached out a hand towards the table at the side of his bed, in the drawer of which he kept a loaded pistol, as a precaution against nocturnal marauders. His hand closed on the knob, and at the same moment a board creaked on the veranda, and a vague shape loomed in the narrow space between the doors. Sweat broke out on Master Dickey's forehead, but the hand which drew open the drawer and descended on the pistol butt was quite steady.